Min had been staring at the same screen for 6 hours straight. His eyes hurt, and his back ached from sitting in the worn chair at monitoring Station 7. The coffee in his cup had gone cold 3 hours ago, but he kept sipping it anyway. This was his job. This was what he did every single day at the Ganymede Deep Space Monitoring Station. Most days nothing happened. Space was quiet, space was empty, space was boring. But not today. The signal came through at 2:47 a.m. station time. At first, Min thought it was just another piece of space junk reflecting radio waves. The galaxy was full of noise. Dead stars, pulsars, random radiation. All of it created patterns that looked like signals but meant nothing. This one was different. Min sat up straight, his tiredness disappearing in an instant. The pattern was too regular, too organized. He ran it through the computer 3 times, checking for errors. No errors. This was real. His hands shook as he reached for the communication panel. Get to Station 7 right now, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. I need you to see this. Arrived in less than 2 minutes, her hair still messy from sleep. She was the station's best specialist. If anyone could figure out what this signal meant, it was her. What is it? She asked, sliding into the chair next to him. I don't know, Min said, but it's coming from deep space, really deep. I'm tracking it as 47 light-years away. Ha's eyes went wide. 47 light-years, that's impossible, there's nothing out there. There is now, Min said, pointing at the screen. Look at the pattern, that's not natural. Ha leaned closer, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. She pulled up analysis programs, ran frequency checks, and built pattern models. Min watched her work, his heart pounding in his chest. He had been monitoring space signals for 12 years. He had never seen anything like this. It's a message, Ha whispered after 20 minutes. Min, this is a message from someone, something. Can you decode it? I'm trying. Her voice was tight with concentration. The mathematical structure is complex, but they're using basic physics as a reference point. Whoever sent this wanted it to be understood. Min called Captain Sung-ho. The station commander arrived in the monitoring room, still pulling on his uniform jacket. He was a serious man with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Report, Sung-ho said. We have a signal, sir, Min said. Extraterrestrial origin. Hai's decoding it now. Sung-ho's face remained calm, but Min saw his jaw tighten. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for centuries. The question that had haunted every person who looked up at the stars. Are we alone? The answer was about to arrive. Ha worked for 3 more hours. Min brought her fresh coffee. Sung-ho stood behind them, silent and watchful. Other station personnel gathered in the monitoring room, whispers spreading through the crowd. Everyone wanted to know. Everyone needed to know. Finally, Ha sat back in her chair. Her face was pale. I've got it, she said quietly. Captain, you need to see this. She pressed a button and the main screen lit up with translated text. Min read it once, then read it again. His stomach turned cold. The message was a distress call. A species called that had sent it into space, hoping someone would hear. They were dying. Someone was killing them. An empire called that had come to their world and started destroying everything. They had no weapons. They had no armies. They were peaceful beings who had never hurt anyone. They didn't care. The message included data, population counts, location coordinates, time stamps. When they had sent the message, their population was 4 billion. They estimated they had maybe 6 months before complete extinction. How old is this signal? Sung-ho asked. 6 months, Ha said, her voice breaking. It took 6 months to reach us because of the distance. Captain, if this is real, if this is happening right now. She didn't finish. She didn't have to. Min understood. 6 months had already passed. How many were left? Were any of them still alive? Show me the images, Sung-ho said. Ha hesitated, then pressed another button. the screen filled with pictures that they had attached to their message. Min wished he hadn't looked. Burning cities, bodies in the streets, families running from massive ships that filled the sky. They looked like gentle creatures, tall and thin, with large eyes and delicate hands. In the pictures, they were screaming. They were dying. The soldiers looked like nightmares, huge and armored, carrying weapons that turned homes into ash. They sent this blindly into space, Ha said, wiping tears from her eyes. They didn't know if anyone would hear. They didn't know if anyone existed out here. They just hoped. They begged for help. The monitoring room was completely silent. Min looked at the faces around him. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Humanity had finally found other intelligent life in the universe, and that life was being murdered. Captain Sung-ho's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Send everything to Earth Command immediately. Full priority alert. Make sure the United Earth Council sees this within the hour. Yes, sir, Min said, his fingers already moving across the controls. Sir, Ha said carefully, they are 47 light-years away. Even if Earth decides to help, it would take months to get there. By then. I know, Sung-ho said. His voice was hard as iron. But we're going to try anyway. Send the message. The data packet shot toward Earth at the speed of light. It would take hours to arrive, but once it did, everything would change. Min watched the progress bar on his screen, feeling helpless. Somewhere out there, 47 light-years away, people were dying. An entire civilization was being wiped out. They had called for help, and their call had finally been heard. But was it too late? He thought about the families in those pictures. He thought about the children. He thought about how terrified they must be, how hopeless they must feel. Then he thought about humanity. He thought about every war Earth had fought, every battle, every last stand when people refused to give up. He thought about the fury that humans felt when they saw innocent people suffer. The Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had committed genocide, and they had done it thinking nobody would care, thinking nobody would stop them. They were wrong. 12 hours later, the response came from Earth. Min read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. The United Earth Council had voted. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was going to war. Not for territory, not for resources, not for power. For the first time in human history, Earth was going to war for someone else. For strangers who had cried out into the darkness. For people humanity had never met and might never meet. Captain Sung-ho read the message aloud to the entire station. When he finished, the monitoring room erupted in cheers. Min looked at Ha. She was crying again, but this time she was smiling. We heard them, she said. They called for help and we heard them. And now we're going to answer, Min said. He looked at the screen showing the distant star where they lived. Hold on, he thought. Just hold on a little longer. We're coming. Admiral One stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable and watched Earth disappear behind them. 47 warships followed his flagship, the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 200,000 people were making this journey. Soldiers, doctors, engineers, pilots, all volunteers. Every single one of them had asked to come. The mission was simple. Travel 47 light-years to a planet called Save whoever was left of the people, and deal with the Empire. Simple but not easy. One had been in the military for 30 years. He had commanded ships, fought pirates, protected colony worlds, but he had never fought aliens before. Nobody had. Humanity had been alone in the galaxy for so long that most people had stopped believing anyone else existed. Now they knew better. Jump drive charging, Admiral, reported the navigation officer. We'll be ready for FTL in 10 minutes. Good, one said. All ships report status. One by one, the 47 warships confirmed they were ready. One felt a weight settle on his shoulders. These ships represented Earth's entire deep space combat capability. If this mission failed, if they were stronger than expected, humanity would be defenseless. But one had seen the pictures from the distress call. He had watched the footage of families being torn apart, of cities burning. He would rather die trying to stop that than live knowing he had done nothing. "All ships ready, Admiral," the navigation officer said. "Take us to FTL," one ordered. "Destination." The stars stretched and blurred. Space twisted. The fleet jumped forward, racing toward a world they had never seen, to save people they had never met. The journey would take 6 months. Dr. Me worked in the medical bay of the Indomitable, preparing for what they might find. She was the fleet's chief medical officer, and her job was to keep humans healthy. But soon, she might need to treat an entirely different species. They had included biological data in their distress call. Me studied it constantly. They were carbon-based like humans, but their body chemistry was different. Their blood was copper-based instead of iron-based, turning it blue instead of red. They were fragile. Their bones were lighter, their skin thinner. That made what they were doing even worse. They couldn't fight back. They had no chance. Me looked at the medical supplies stacked in the storage bay. Bandages, antibiotics, surgical tools, blood substitutes, everything she could think of. She had converted 3 entire cargo ships into mobile hospitals. It still didn't feel like enough. "Doctor," said one of her assistants, a young medic named Bora, "we're receiving another transmission from." Me's heart sank. They had automated systems that kept broadcasting updates. Every update was worse than the last. "Show me," she said quietly. The report appeared on her screen. The population had dropped again. When they sent their distress call, 4 billion had been alive. The first update, received a month into the journey, said 3.2 billion remained. The second update said 2.7 billion. This update said 2.3 billion. Me closed her eyes. That meant 400 million had died in the last month. Families, children, elders, all gone. And the fleet was still 5 months away. "Can we go faster?" she asked, knowing the answer. "The jump drive is already running at maximum capacity," Bora said sadly. "We're going as fast as we can." Me wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. Instead, she took a deep breath and went back to work. She couldn't save the who were already dead, but she would do everything in her power to save the ones who were still alive. Lieutenant Wu sat in the cockpit of his fighter, running through combat simulations for the 100th time. He was the leader of Strike Wing 1, commanding 50 of humanity's best fighter pilots. The problem was that nobody knew how good they were. Humanity had never fought an alien military before. The simulations were based on guesses and theories. For all Wu knew, they could destroy his entire wing in the first 30 seconds of combat. "Another run?" asked Dalnim, his wingman, over the communication channel. "Another run," Wu confirmed. They launched into the simulation. Virtual ships appeared on his screen. Wu dove and weaved, firing missiles and plasma bursts. His wing followed his lead, working together like they had trained for years. They won the simulation. They always won the simulation. But Wu knew that real combat would be different. In real combat, people died, and he was responsible for 50 pilots who trusted him to keep them alive. "Sir," Dalnim said after the simulation ended, "do you think we can beat them?" Wu thought about lying, thought about saying something confident and reassuring, but his pilots deserved the truth. "I don't know," he said, "but I know we're going to try, and I know why we're trying." The Dalnim said softly. The Wu agreed. He had listened to the intercepted communications that intelligence had decoded. The soldiers talked about the like they were animals, livestock, things to be killed for sport and profit. Wu had felt rage like he had never felt before. The kind of rage that burned cold and sharp. The kind of rage that made him check his weapons 3 times to make sure they were ready. The thought they could do whatever they wanted. They thought nobody would stop them. Wu was going to prove them wrong. Months passed. The fleet raced through the darkness between stars. Every week brought another update from. Every week the population numbers dropped. 3.2 billion, 2.7 billion, 2.3 billion, 2 billion, 1.8 billion. Admiral One watched the numbers fall and felt his determination harden into something unbreakable. They were killing 15 million every week. 15 million. The number was so huge it was hard to understand. But one understood what it meant in reality. It meant families destroyed, children orphaned, homes burned, an entire civilization being erased from existence. 3 weeks until we arrive, his tactical officer said during a briefing. Current intelligence shows 19 warships in orbit around. They're conducting orbital bombardment of cities. Orbital bombardment, one repeated, his voice flat. They're shooting civilians from space. Yes, sir. One looked at the holographic display showing the system. 19 ships against 47 human ships. The numbers were in humanity's favor, but numbers didn't tell the whole story. What do we know about military capabilities? He asked. Not much, sir, the intelligence officer admitted. Based on intercepted communications, the Empire has been expanding for 400 years. They've conquered 17 other species. Their technology seems focused on overwhelming firepower and heavy armor. And our technology? The officer smiled grimly. Superior, sir. Our analysis suggests that human weapons are at least 2 generations ahead of equivalents. Are hit harder, our missiles are smarter, our shields are stronger. Suggestions are not certainties, one said. When we drop out of FTL in that system, we need to be ready for anything. Continue running combat drills. I want every crew member to know their job perfectly. Yes, sir. The briefing ended. One sat alone in his ready room looking at the picture on his desk. It showed the tall, gentle beings with large eyes and delicate hands. In the picture they were happy. They were alive. How many of them were still alive now? The final week of the journey was the longest. Everyone on the fleet knew they were close. Soldiers checked their weapons. Pilots ran final simulations. Doctors prepared emergency medical facilities. And the updates kept coming from 1.6 billion. Dr. Me read the number and felt sick. More than half of the population was gone, dead, murdered, and the human fleet was still days away. She walked through the medical bay, checking supplies one last time. Everything was ready. The question was whether it would be enough. Dr. Bora said, approaching carefully, "Do you think any of them will survive?" Me wanted to say yes, wanted to promise that they would save thousands, millions, but she had learned not to make promises she couldn't keep. "I don't know," she said honestly, "but we're going to save everyone we can." On the final day of the journey, Admiral One called all ship captains to a video conference. "Tomorrow we arrive at," he said, looking at each captain's face on the screen. "We know there are 19 warships in orbit. We know they are committing genocide. When we drop out of FTL, we will give them one chance to surrender and withdraw." "And if they refuse?" asked one of the captains. One's expression turned to stone. "Then we destroy them," he said simply. "They have shown no mercy to they will receive no mercy from us. Any questions?" Nobody spoke. "Good," one said. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we remind the galaxy that evil has consequences." The conference ended. One sat in his command chair and waited for the final jump. Lieutenant Wu gathered his pilots in the fighter bay. "Tomorrow we fight," he said. "Not for glory, not for conquest. We fight because people are dying and we can stop it. We fight because they called for help and we answered. Remember that. When you're in your cockpit and the shooting starts, remember why we're here." The pilots saluted. Wu saluted back, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Tomorrow, everything would change. The fleet's clocks counted down the final hours, then minutes, then seconds. Admiral One stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the timer hit 0. "Drop us out of FTL," he ordered. Space twisted. The stars snapped back into focus. And there on the was a beautiful blue and green world, with 19 massive warships in orbit, raining destruction on the planet below. The warships hung in orbit like massive predators circling wounded prey. Each ship was enormous, 2 kilometers long, covered in dark armor plating and bristling with weapons. They were firing on the planet below, their bombardment cannons sending streams of superheated plasma into cities. Admiral One watched them for exactly 3 seconds. Then he opened communications. "This is Admiral One of the United Earth Fleet," he said, his voice calm and cold. "You are committing genocide against the people. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and withdraw from this system. If you refuse, you will be destroyed." On the flagship, War Master heard the message and laughed. Was a warrior from a long line of warriors. His species had conquered 17 different civilizations over 400 years. They were the strongest military power in this entire region of space. And now, some unknown aliens were threatening him. It was almost amusing. "Unknown vessel," replied, still laughing. "You dare threaten the Empire? We have fought wars for centuries. We have crushed armies and broken worlds. Who are you to challenge us?" "We are humanity," one said, "and you have 20 seconds left." Stopped laughing. These humans actually thought they could fight had 19 warships under his command. Each one was a masterpiece of military engineering. Each one had destroyed entire fleets in previous wars. He looked at his tactical display. The human fleet had 47 ships. More than yes, but numbers didn't matter when you had superior technology and 4 centuries of combat experience. "You want to fight," growled. "You'll get one. All ships combat formation, destroy these fools." On the Indomitable, Commander Sora watched her tactical screen as the ships turned toward the human fleet. She was the tactical officer, responsible for coordinating the battle. Her hands moved across her console, targeting systems locking onto each vessel. "Admiral," she said quietly, "they're powering weapons. Should I engage?" One looked at the timer. 30 seconds had passed. "Fire," he said. The human fleet opened fire. Accelerated tungsten projectiles to a fraction of the speed of light. Missile pods released swarms of smart missiles that twisted and dodged through space. Plasma lances carved lines of superheated energy across the darkness. All of it hit the fleet in one devastating wave. Its flagship shook violently as something smashed into its forward shields. Alarms blared across the bridge. "Damage report," shouted. "Forward shields at 40%, his engineer screamed. "What hit us?" On the human side, Sora smiled grimly. "Direct hit on their flagship. Their shields are weaker than expected." "Continue firing," one ordered. "Target their weapon systems." The ships returned fire, their massive bombardment cannons launching plasma bolts at the human fleet. But the human ships were smaller, faster, and their shields were built using technology they had never seen before. The plasma bolts splashed harmlessly against the human shields. Watched in disbelief as his weapons that had cracked planets, failed to even scratch the human ships. What were these vessels made of? "All weapons maximum power," he ordered. "Concentrate fire on their flagship." All 19 ships focused their bombardment cannons on the Indomitable. The space around one ship lit up with plasma fire. The Indomitable's shields held. "Shields at 85%, Sora reported calmly. "No damage to the hull." One nodded. "Return fire, disable their flagship." Lieutenant Wu launched from the Indomitable's fighter bay, leading Strike Wing 1 into the chaos of battle. 50 fighters streamed out behind him, each one a sleek dart of metal and weapons. "All wings target the flagship's gun batteries," Wu ordered. "Let's take away their teeth." His fighter screamed through space, dodging between plasma bolts that could vaporize him in an instant. His targeting computer locked onto one of the flagship's massive weapons. Wu fired a spread of armor-piercing missiles. The missiles hit perfectly, detonating inside the weapon's barrel. The entire gun battery exploded in a flash of fire and debris. "Gun battery destroyed," Wu reported, moving to next target. All around him, human fighters danced through the battle, too fast for the guns to track. Every few seconds, another weapon exploded. The massive warships were designed to fight other capital ships, not small fighters that moved like angry wasps. Watched his flagship being torn apart piece by piece. How was this possible? They had the best military in the galaxy. They had conquered worlds. They had destroyed armies. But these humans were better. Their weapons hit harder. Their ships moved faster. Their shields were impenetrable, and their tactics had never seen anything like it. The human fighters worked together like a single organism, each one covering another, each one striking where they were weakest. "Sir," his communications officer shouted, "3 of our ships have lost main power. 2 more are requesting permission to retreat." "No," roared, we do not retreat, fight." But even as he gave the order, he knew it was hopeless. The battle had lasted only 10 minutes, and already his fleet was being destroyed. On the Indomitable, Sora watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. 5 ships were completely disabled. 3 more were heavily damaged. The rest were starting to pull back, trying to escape. "Admiral," she said, "several ships are attempting to flee." One remembered the images from the distress call. He remembered the burning cities. He remembered the families torn apart. He remembered that they had shown no mercy to the "No survivors," he said quietly. "They chose to commit genocide. They chose to ignore our warning. Now they pay the price." "Yes, sir," Sora said. She opened a channel to all human ships. "All vessels, new orders. No ships leave this system. Destroy them all." The human fleet surged forward. Faster ships moved to cut off the retreat. Missiles hunted down fleeing vessels, fired with precision, targeting engines and life support systems. One by one, the warships died. His flagship was the last one standing. The massive vessel was a burning wreck, half its systems offline, fires raging through multiple decks. Stood on his damaged bridge, watching the human ships circle him like sharks. He had fought in dozens of battles. He had won every single one. But this time he had lost, and he knew what came next. A human voice came over the communications channel. "Vessel," Admiral 1 said, "your fleet is destroyed. You have 1 minute to evacuate to escape pods before we destroy your ship." Looked at his crew, young warriors who had trusted him to lead them to victory. He had failed them all. "Abandon ship," he said quietly. "Get to the escape pods." His crew hesitated. In culture, abandoning your ship was shameful, cowardly. "That's an order," shouted, "Move." The crew ran for the escape pods, stayed on the bridge alone. A captain should go down with his ship. That was the way. But as he waited for death, he thought about the weak, fragile beings his fleet had been killing. He had thought they were worthless, thought nobody in the galaxy would care if they all died. He had been so very wrong. The Indomitable's main fired once. The projectile punched through the flagship from bow to stern, and the massive warship exploded in a ball of fire. Silence fell over the battlefield. 19 warships, all destroyed. The entire battle had lasted 47 minutes. Not a single human ship had been lost. One looked at the debris floating in space, all that remained of the fleet. He felt no joy, no satisfaction, just a grim sense of justice. "Status report," he said. "All human ships reporting in," Sora said. "Minor damage to 3 vessels. No casualties. Fighter wings returning to their bays. We have the field, Admiral." "Good," one said. He switched his view to the planet below. looked peaceful from orbit, but he knew that down on the surface, millions were suffering. "Prepare landing teams," he ordered. "Medical ships move into orbit. Dr. Me, you're cleared to begin rescue operations." "Yes, sir," Me's voice came over the comm. "We're ready." One sat back in his command chair and took a deep breath. The battle was over. They were defeated. But the real work was just beginning. On the surface in the ruins of a city called, a elder named looked up at the sky. He had seen the flashes of light in orbit. He had heard the thunder of ships exploding. And now, for the first time in months, the bombardment had stopped. The ships were gone. Didn't understand what had happened, but he allowed himself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, the cry for help his people had sent into the void had been answered. Maybe someone had come to save them. Dr. Me's medical shuttle descended through the smoke-filled sky. Through the viewport, she could see the devastation below. The city had once been home to 12 million. Now it was ruins. Buildings collapsed. Streets torn apart. Fires still burning in places where bombardment had hit hours before. "Landing zone ahead," the pilot said quietly. It's bad, Doctor." Me didn't answer. She was already preparing her medical equipment. Behind her, 20 medics and nurses did the same. They had trained for this. They were ready. But nothing could truly prepare someone for what they were about to see. The shuttle touched down in what used to be a city square. Me opened the door and stepped out into hell. Bodies everywhere. Civilians who had been running when the bombardment hit. Buildings reduced to rubble. The air thick with smoke and the smell of death. And somewhere in this destruction there were survivors, people who needed help. "Spread out," Me ordered her team. "Look for anyone alive. Be careful, buildings might collapse." Captain Young's marine transport landed beside the medical shuttle. He emerged with 50 soldiers, all armed and armored. Young was a big man with kind eyes, and right now those eyes were filled with horror at what he saw. "Captain," Me said, "we need your people to help search the ruins. Listen for anyone calling for help." "Yes, ma'am," Young said. He turned to his Marines. "You heard her. Find survivors, move carefully, watch for unstable structures." The Marines spread out through the ruins, their armor sensors scanning for life signs. Me followed, her medical scanner in hand. The device could detect biology from up to 50 meters away. It beeped a faint signal. "This way," Me called, running toward a collapsed building. She found him buried under debris, a male, his blue blood staining the rubble around him. He was conscious barely, his large eyes looking up at her with confusion and fear. "It's okay," Me said gently, even though she knew he couldn't understand her words. "We're here to help." She signaled for her team. Together, they carefully lifted the debris off the injured. His leg was broken in 3 places, and he had deep cuts across his chest. But he was alive. Me worked quickly, applying compatible bandages and administering pain medication. She had studied their biology for months. She knew what to do. They stared at her, tears running down his face. He reached out with one delicate hand and touched her arm. Me understood. He was thanking her for coming, for helping. "You're welcome," she whispered. More survivors appeared as the day went on. Some crawled from the ruins. Some emerged from underground shelters. All of them stared at the human rescuers with disbelief. After months of killing them, aliens were arriving to help instead of hurt. Elder emerged from a basement shelter, leading a group of 30 who had hidden there during the bombardment. He was old, his body thin and weak, but his eyes were sharp. When he saw the human Marines searching the ruins, he almost couldn't believe it. Captain Young approached the group, his hands raised to show he meant no harm. They shrank back, afraid. They had learned to fear armored soldiers. But Young removed his helmet, he showed them his face, and he smiled. "We're friends," he said, knowing they wouldn't understand the words but hoping they would understand the tone. Elder studied the human's face. He saw kindness there, Compassion, not the cruelty they had shown. Stepped forward and bowed deeply, the gesture of respect and gratitude. Young bowed back. Dr. Me arrived with her team, her scanner showing multiple injured in the group. She moved among them, treating wounds, giving medicine, offering comfort. One of them was a young child, perhaps 5 years old in human terms. The child was alone, crying, covered in dust and blood. Me knelt beside the child and gently cleaned the dirt from their face. The child, Me couldn't tell if it was male or female, had a deep cut on their arm. Me bandaged it carefully. "Where are your parents?" she asked softly, already knowing the answer. The child just cried. Me gathered the child into her arms and held them while they sobbed. Around her, other humans did the same, holding frightened children, comforting injured elders, saving lives. This was why they had come. This was what mattered. Elder approached Dr. Me, gesturing at himself and then at the sky. He was trying to communicate. Me pulled out her translation device. It was loaded with the language from their distress signal. She spoke into it, and it produced sounds in the language. "We received your message," the device said in. "We came to help you." His eyes widened. He touched the device, then spoke rapidly in his own language. The device translated. "We sent our cry into the void. We never believed anyone would hear. Never believed anyone would care. Who are you?" "We are humans," Me said through the device. "We are from a world called Earth, very far away. When we heard that you were in danger, we came as fast as we could." "Why?" asked. "We are nothing to you, strangers. Why would you travel so far for strangers?" Me thought about how to answer that. Finally, she said, "Because it was the right thing to do, because you needed help and we could give it." Was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke again, his voice shaking. "My people, how many are left?" Me checked her. The latest counts from orbital scans were coming in. She hesitated, not wanting to tell him, but he deserved the truth. "We estimate 1.6 billion are still alive," she said quietly. Made a sound that was clearly grief. When they had arrived, there had been 4 billion. Now more than half were gone, dead, murdered. "We will save everyone we can," Me promised. "Every single one. You're not alone anymore." Over the next days, the rescue operation expanded. Human ships landed in every major population center. Medical teams set up field hospitals. Marines provided security and searched for survivors. Engineers began repairing damaged infrastructure. Captain Young walked through refugee camps where thousands have gathered, all of them displaced by the attacks. He saw families reuniting, finding each other after being separated. He saw children playing for the first time in months, no longer afraid of bombardment from the sky. But he also saw things that haunted him. Mass graves where they had dumped bodies, entire cities reduced to ash, orphaned children who would never see their parents again. One day, he found a young sitting alone near a destroyed building. The child was staring at the rubble with empty eyes. Young sat down beside them. He didn't say anything, just sat there sharing their grief. After a while, the child looked at him. Young offered his hand. The child took it, gripping tightly as if holding onto the only solid thing in a world that had been destroyed. In orbit, Admiral 1 reviewed intelligence data recovered from the destroyed ships. What he found made his blood run cold. The Empire was massive, over 200 star systems. They had been expanding for 4 centuries, conquering species after species. They were just the latest victims. The fleet that had attacked was considered a minor force by standards. The Empire had hundreds of warships scattered across their territory. And now Earth had destroyed 19 of them. The High Command didn't even know yet, but when they found out, there would be consequences. One thought about taking his fleet and running, bringing the survivors back to Earth and hiding from the Empire. Then he thought about the other species that had conquered, the other worlds suffering under rule. If humanity ran now, the killing would continue. He made his decision. "Communications," he said. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need to talk to the leadership. It's time to end this war before it really begins." On the surface of Dr. Me held the young child who had no family left. The child had a name. She was 6 years old. Her parents had died protecting her during a raid. Clung to me, refusing to let go. Me didn't mind. She held the child and hummed a soft song from Earth. "You're not alone," she whispered to. "Never again, I promise." Elder watched them and felt something he hadn't felt in months: hope. The humans had come. They had answered the cry for help. They had fought and won. And now they were saving everyone they could. Thought about the message his people had sent into space all those months ago. A desperate plea from a dying civilization. They had sent it blindly, hopping against hope that someone, somewhere might care. Someone had cared. And the humans had brought more than just ships and weapons. They had brought something, the thought they had lost forever, the belief that the universe had good in it, that mercy existed, that cruelty would not always win. "Thank you," said in his own language, looking up at the human ships in orbit. "Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for coming." 3 months after the battle, the evacuation was nearly complete. Massive human transport ships filled their cargo holds with refugees. Every ship that could be spared was brought to. Earth had sent colony ships, freighters, even passenger liners, all of them working together to save the people. Elder stood on the landing platform, watching another transport lift off. Inside were 10,000, all headed to their new home. The humans had found a beautiful world in a safe system, far from space. They called it Haven. They would call it home. "Elder," Dr. Me approached, carrying Young in her arms. The child had not left Me's side in 3 months. Me didn't mind. She had grown to love the little like her own daughter. Doctor greeted her with a bow. "I wanted to thank you again for everything." "You don't need to thank us," Me said. "This is what anyone should do." "But not everyone would," said quietly. "The galaxy is full of species. Many of them knew they were killing us. None of them came to help. Only you, only humans." Me didn't know what to say to that. She just held a little. "What will happen to your people now?" she asked. "We will rebuild," said. "On Haven. We will remember those we lost, and we will make sure their memory lives on. And we will never forget that humanity saved us." High above, Admiral One prepared for the most dangerous mission of his life. He was taking a single diplomatic ship to the ambassador would deliver Earth's message to the Empress Regent. It was possibly the most dangerous diplomatic mission in human history. Was a small woman with steel in her spine and ice in her veins. She had negotiated treaties with Mars colonies and brokered peace between Europa stations. But she had never faced an alien empire before. "Are you ready?" One asked her. "No," said honestly, "but we're doing this anyway." The diplomatic ship made the jump to the. It was a massive planet, bigger than Earth, with sprawling cities that covered entire continents. This was the heart of an empire that had conquered 17 species. Ship was immediately surrounded by warships, dozens of them, all weapons trained on her vessel. A voice came over the communication system. "Unknown vessel, you are trespassing in space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." "This is Ambassador of United Earth," she responded calmly. "I am here to speak with your Empress Regent. I carry a message of critical importance." There was a long silence. Then, "You will be escorted to the surface. Do not deviate from the designated flight path or you will be destroyed." "Understood," said. She was brought before Empress Regent in a throne room that was designed to intimidate. It worked. The room was enormous, with ceilings 100 feet high. Sat on a throne of black metal, surrounded by armed guards. She was massive, like all, with dark armor and eyes that burned with intelligence and cruelty. "So," said, her voice echoing through the chamber, "you are the humans, the unknown species that destroyed my fleet at." Yes, said simply. You have courage, I will grant you that, continued. Coming here to my after attacking forces, are you here to surrender, to beg for mercy? No, said, I'm here to deliver a warning. The throne room fell silent. Several guards reached for their weapons. Nobody spoke to the Empress Regent like that. Nobody. Leaned forward. A warning, you dare to threaten me. The Empire spans 200 star systems. We have conquered 17 civilizations. We have fought wars for 400 years. What makes you think you can threaten us? Pulled out a data device. May I show you something? Gestured permission. Activated the device, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the throne room. It showed the battle of the entire thing from beginning to end. 47 minutes of human ships completely destroying 19 warships. The throne room was silent as everyone watched. The expression darkened. You fought well, she admitted when the recording ended. You destroyed one of my fleets, but I have many fleets. You cannot fight all of them. We're not here to fight, said. We're here to give you a choice. You attempted to exterminate the people. We stopped you. This is your only warning, never do it again. You cannot tell the Empire what to do, roared, standing from her throne. We are the masters of this region of space. We decide who lives and who dies. Not anymore, said quietly. The galaxy has changed. Humanity will not allow genocide. We will not allow the strong to prey on the weak. If you continue your current path, you will face consequences. Laughed, it was not a pleasant sound. Consequences, from you, I could have you killed right now. I could send my fleet to your Earth and burn it to ashes. What makes you think? She stopped, because suddenly alarms were blaring throughout the throne room. Guards were shouting, and on every display screen a warning appeared. Unknown VESSELS DETECTED in orbit. 47 contacts. Human design. His face went pale. What have you done? Smiled. I told you we came to deliver a warning. The entire human fleet is here, cloaked in orbit around you. If I don't signal them within the next 5 minutes, they will assume negotiations have failed. You wouldn't dare, hissed. We destroyed your fleet in 47 minutes, said. Your defenses are more formidable, certainly. But can they stop us before we destroy your capital cities, before we cripple your government, before we show the entire empire that you are not invincible? Admiral One's voice came over the communication system, broadcasting to the entire planet. Empress Regent, this is Admiral One. I am currently in position with 47 warships. My weapons are locked onto your planetary defenses. You have 1 minute to respond to Ambassador's terms. Looked at her military advisors. They were frantically working their consoles trying to target the human ships, but the cloaking technology was too good. They couldn't get a lock. What are your terms? Asked, each word sounding like it was being pulled from her by force. Simple, said. Leave thee alone. Pay reparations for the damage you've caused, and submit to galactic law regarding the treatment of sentient species. And if I refuse? His expression hardened. Then we will do to you what you did to. We will show you what it feels like to be helpless, to watch your cities burn, to see your people die. Was silent for a long moment. She had ruled the empire for 20 years. She had never backed down from a challenge. She had never shown weakness. But she also wasn't stupid. The humans had proven they could win battles, and if they destroyed the empire would collapse into civil war. Everything they had built would be lost. I accept your terms, she said quietly. Bowed, a wise decision, Empress Regent. 2 months later, Elder stood on the surface of Haven. The planet was beautiful, blue skies, green forests, clean water. They were building their first new city, with human engineers helping them design structures that could withstand anything. Young ran through the construction site, playing with other children. They were laughing. After everything they had been through, they could still laugh. Dr. Me watched them play, smiling. She had decided to stay on Haven for a few more months, helping set up medical facilities and making sure they had everything they needed. Dr. Elder approached her. "I've been thinking about what to call our first city. I wanted to ask your opinion." "What did you have in mind?" Hope said. "In our language it translates to the City of Hope, because that's what humanity gave us, hope." Me felt tears in her eyes. "I think that's perfect." Captain Young arrived with the last transport of refugees. He had personally overseen the evacuation of the most remote settlements, making sure nobody was left behind. As he stepped off his ship, families rushed to greet him. They bowed, they thanked him, they touched his armor like he was some kind of hero. Young didn't feel like a hero. He had just done what needed to be done. But looking at the grateful faces, at the children who would grow up safe because of what humanity had done, he felt something close to peace. Admiral 1 received a transmission from Earth Command. The United Nations had made a decision. Earth would establish the Galactic Protection Initiative, a permanent fleet dedicated to answering distress calls from any species in danger. Never again would a cry for help go unanswered. Lieutenant Wu and his fighter wing were assigned to patrol the new system, keeping watch for any threats. As he flew over Haven, he saw the building their new civilization. They were safe. They were free. That was worth everything. Ambassador returned to Earth a hero. She had faced down an empire and won without firing a shot. They had agreed to all of Earth's terms. They had paid reparations. They had withdrawn from space. More importantly, they had learned that they were not the strongest force in the galaxy. Humanity had proven that mercy was not weakness, that compassion did not mean you couldn't fight, that good people, when pushed, would push back. Years later, Elder stood in the center of which had grown into a thriving city of 2 million. A monument had been erected in the main square, a statue showing a human and a reaching out to each other. The inscription read, in both and human languages, "We sent a plea into the darkness, hoping someone would hear. Humanity answered with light and with righteous fury. They taught the galaxy that mercy is not weakness and that cruelty will not be tolerated. May we never forget their sacrifice. May we never forget what they taught us, that in the vast darkness of space there is still good. There is still hope. There is still help for those who cry out." Now a young adult stood beside. She had been adopted by Dr. Me and had grown up learning both and human cultures. She looked at the statue with pride. "Do you think they'll always come when someone calls for help?" she asked. Smiled, "Yes, because that's who humans are. They hear those in need and they respond, not with indifference, not with cruelty, with rage at injustice and with mercy for the innocent." In orbit above Haven, human patrol ships kept watch, a promise kept, a duty honored. The galaxy had learned a new truth. Humanity would answer those who cried for help, and heaven helped those who preyed on the innocent.